You are here for the July meeting of the Mycological Association of Washington, D.C. I'm going to do a little intro and some club news. Mitch is going to do our ID table tonight with pictures that people have sent in. And then we've got two presentations. Prasant, who is a recipient of one of our grants that we give to graduate students, is going to talk about his work on nematode trapping fungi. And then Matthew Meyer is going to talk about the evolution and ecology of psilocybin in nature. I'm going to go over a whole bunch of upcoming events. And the first one I want to tell you about is our upcoming picnic. It'll be July 29th. These are some pictures from last year. It was great. It is a potluck and people bring delicious mushroom food. If you want to cook mushrooms that you have foraged, you do need to get someone to identify them for you, confirm your ID of them ahead of time. There's more information about that on the event listing on our website. But we're gonna lead some forays and then we will hang out and eat some good food. So sign up for that. And then Labor Day weekend is our biggest event of the year. It is a long weekend that we spend up in Pennsylvania at a camp called Sequinoda, and registration is open. So I think it's open only to members. So you've got to be signed in on the website to see the event and you can go sign up.
It's open to anybody.
Oh, it's open to anybody.
Yeah.
So maybe you don't have to be signed in. But where it is filling up, so I want to make sure people know that they can go sign up now. It is a great event and I've got more pictures. So the woods up there are super lush and beautiful. There's also some really interesting bog areas. This is a cranberry bog that we go to every year. Just really different environment from here in DC and very rich with mushrooms. These are all the chanterelles and chickens of woods that we found last year, which there's a kitchen there that incorporates them into a bunch of the meals, including this pizza we had last year. But April has underway plans for a really nice meal on Saturday night. We're going to bring in a guest chef and sort of up the culinary game instead of eating summer camp food all weekend. So I'm really looking forward to that. And there's just tables and tables of mushrooms by the end of the weekend, and you can geek out on the ID as much or as little as you want to. Here you've got Serenella and Natalie working on preparing samples for the DNA analysis that they do. But you know, people can participate at any level they want and just browse or just enjoy the edible mushrooms if you want, and go for some great hikes in the woods. So that is, again, Labor Day weekend, and go sign up on the website now. Other upcoming stuff, the sequencing folks have a lab day coming up. Wait, isn't today July 11th? Tom, what's the right date for this?
Yes.
It's not today, it's the 16th.
16th. And then our next monthly meeting, the first Tuesday in August, is August 1st. And I assume that lab day is also up on our website and you can get info on how to plug into that. There's a ton of weekend long forays and events coming up in August and September. And many of our club members have participated in these in the past and really recommend them. So pretty much every weekend in August or September, you can go to one. So I talked about Sequinoda separately, but that, you know, falls right in between NAMA and the Kennett Square Mushroom Festival at the beginning of September. Matt and I are going out to the West Virginia Club foray. I know some of our members, including Annie, are going down to the NAMA foray, which I believe is full, down in North Carolina. NEMF, the Northeast Mycological Federation, is up in New York. There's another foray up in Pennsylvania later in September. All great stuff, but often there are a bunch of club members that go out, especially to the West Virginia one, because that's pretty close, and that's also a beautiful area. So check that one out if that timing works for you. All right, moving on to fungi in the news. Just a few quick things because I know Mitch has a lot of photos to go through. And there have been a few articles, I think, over the last few years that have tried to estimate sort of the extent to which fungi are sequestering carbon. And this is one that was just published in Current Biology in June. Where they estimate that, and this was sort of a review of other articles that are looking at data sets, looking at the carbon from range and non-woody plants and mushrooms. And in the 200 articles that they looked at, they were finding that plants allocate between 1 and 13% of the carbon that they photosynthesize, which means if you extrapolate from that, that the annual amount of carbon that is getting sequestered into the mycorrhizae of fungi, or not only the hyphae, but the whole fungal growth, is about a third of an equivalent of the third of global fossil fuel emissions.
Wow.
Now, of course, this isn't like a new world-saving thing, right? This has been going on all along, but people are trying to estimate the magnitude of it and shine a light on how important it could be to do conservation that acknowledges the importance of mushrooms. The next thing I want to talk about is this article that was just in the Post yesterday, talking about using fungi as fire prevention in the West. So it talks about how, one of the things that is happening in the West is that because firefighting has been so aggressive over the years, and fires get put out quickly than when they can be, and the forests are not burning sort of and thinning out at the rate that they normally would, and then you get these mega fires that are really hard to fight. And so there's a lot of folks in forest management who think you need to be thinning out some of the wood and sort of reducing the amount of fuel that's available. And in some places they do that by making big burn piles of wood in the forest and doing controlled fires just around like big piles of trees that they cut down. And there are folks who are now pushing to like, we could just be decomposing those trees with mushrooms instead and really improving the soil instead of burning it all off. So I recommend that article in the Post from yesterday. A bunch of psychedelics news, which is always of interest. I think Angela Bryce Smith sent these to me. The FDA just put out draft guidance aimed at folks who want to run clinical trials for psilocybin, sort of giving them some guidance on what a clinical trial would have to look like to address some of the challenges in psychedelic research that would make the FDA more likely to take them seriously, which is sort of a sign that the FDA is willing to take them seriously if people put in the work. In Australia, as of July 1, qualified psychiatrists can prescribe psilocybin specifically for treatment-resistant depression. So folks are going to be watching that, I'm sure. And there was just a big conference in Denver that drew like 12,000 people, all focused on psychedelic science, including mushrooms and other chemicals. A couple other articles I'll point you to. The Post back in the beginning of July had a really interesting article that was sort of insider politics on some of the lobbying that's happening in this one particular lobbyist here, and sort of how they're lining up people across the political spectrum from AOC to some guys on the right that are really interested in mental health treatment for veterans, and you know, sort of finding where they can meet people and bring them in on the legalization of psilocybin. And then CNN, I have not watched this, but apparently they just did a whole full length episode on magic mushrooms on Anderson. I don't think Anderson Cooper did it. It was a different reporter, but on his show. So lots of attention to this subject for sure right now. And just a couple other pieces that I'll point you to. The New York Times Magazine did a long form article on Merlin Sheldrake. If you've read his book, what is it, Entangled Life? You might be interested in reading a little bit more about him personally. And then Science Friday had a piece about queer ecology and sort of the concept that, you know, mushrooms have thousands of genders and things like that. So that was a fun little piece as well. And that is all I had for now, and I will turn things over to Mitch to look at all the pictures of mushrooms people have been sending him. I'm sure it's been a lot.